All right, welcome to the latest episode of the Organic Fitness Podcast with myself, Colman Power, and I have my latest guest here in front of me, most certainly the innovative Niamh Hegerty, who has most certainly just brought out the likes of a new healthy drink, most certainly water kefir. Okay, bkultured is the name of the product. All right, Niamh, say hello to the listeners.
Hello, and thank you so much, Colman, for inviting me on and getting to share the story of bkultured.
Yeah, no problem at all. And that's the whole idea and emphasis of me literally chatting to you today. I'm literally trying to get more people on this healthy buzz. We are heading into the summer months. It is a beautiful day. You most certainly went for the sea swim. I most certainly went and did the likes of my morning workout. All right. And that's as a result of most certainly our, I suppose, consumption over the weekend, where we most certainly were drinking the likes of that water kefir. And I want you supposed to tell the listeners here in relation a little bit about maybe about your backstory and or how the whole company and the product started.
Okay. Obviously my name is Niamh and I'm from Cork, which is down in the south of Ireland. Um, so I suppose my story has evolved. It's changed quite a lot. I have always had a very keen interest in food and the drinks industry in Ireland because there is just so many amazing products, like artisanal products as well in Ireland. Um, but I always saw myself working for a company and working in the commercial side of a business. But then I had traveled for a few years and I came back and I studied in Ballymaloe Cookery School, which is a pretty world famous cookery school based down here in East Cork. And it was founded by Darina Allen, who is probably one of the best known chefs in Ireland and also worldwide. And as part of the course, there's a fermentation element. So we learned everything from how to make sourdough to how to make kimchi to how to make water kefir, kombucha, everything. And at lunch every day, we were served water kefir. And I just was hooked. I was hooked, A, because it was good for me, but also it just tasted so, so good. And it's really experimental with how you can make different flavors with it. And it's super natural. So after the course, I took away some of the culture and just kept making it myself. So I was just making it at home just because I enjoyed the product. And the benefits associated with water kefir are that it's a live drink. So it's a fermented drink, but it's full of live bacterias, which are good bacterias. And they're really, really beneficial for your gut health. So I was really, I suppose, enthralled by the fact that this was a tasty drink, which is rare, but also a healthy drink. And I had friends would come, and obviously I was fresh off the cookery course, so I was like making all these like lavish dinners and hosting dinner parties, and I was serving up the water kefir for all my friends, and people just like loved it. And then I actually started my own food business, which started with picnic boxes, and in each picnic box, people got a bottle of the water kefir. So it was just whatever flavor I was feeling at that moment. And there was a few customers actually just got in touch separately, because they suffered with genuine gut concerns like IBS. Or just inflammation, or reflux, different things that like were going on for themselves with their own health, with their own gut health. And they were asking, could they get kind of almost like a subscription model where they'd get it every week and it would just be something that they'd add into their diet on a daily basis. So it was kind of from there I started to see a real traction with the water kefir. And I also have a food trailer and I was selling it through the food trailer, and I was getting everyone to drink it because I don't serve any, I suppose, fizzy drinks at the trailer, or juices. The only thing I'd serve is something that I know are very natural ingredients or is quite a whole product. So water kefir is kind of the only carbonated, like AKA fizzy drink that you can get. So by my location, we're on a cliff edge where my food trailer is located. So there's no shops, there's no other choices. So people had no choice but to consume the water kefir. And then people really opened up, it really opened up people's eyes, I suppose, to the drink, and to the possibility of having something that's good for you, but also enjoy it. So last year, I decided to launch the brand bkultured, which was a large leap of faith, but it's going really well. So I last year won silver at Blas na Heron, which is the Taste of Ireland Awards, which is actually a really massive accolade because they base it purely on taste. So they don't care about functional benefits or anything like that. It's just pure taste competition, blind tasting. So that was massive to get some, I suppose, independent review of the drink. So that was last year. I attended numerous food festivals and then started selling it on my website, which is bkultured. And then this year I launched it into retail. So we're selling in outlets across Cork County. So it's going from like local food stores to Centras, which is a small supermarket, to restaurants, and then just independent health retailers, like health food shops as well. So there's a varied profile of who's buying bkultured at the moment. And then I also have quite a few online customers as well who purchase just a box of kefir and it's delivered to their door.
That's amazing. And I love that fact that literally what you're doing is going to a location where there's no other, I suppose, available drinks on offer. And as a result of that, you're giving them something healthy. And it's the whole idea of tasting something that's actually not only beneficial to them, but actually is actually something that they enjoy. And then it's the alternative to Coke, 7-Ups, and
Yes.
whether they're diet or not, there's actually so many different negative effects on your gut health when most certainly you do consume those foods, whether they're sugar-free or not, with the sweeteners having the opposite effect as opposed to the likes of the benefits of increasing your beneficial microorganisms. 90% of your serotonin will be produced in your gut. And who here, Niamh, does not want to be happier? That's something that I always do to people, whether I'm doing a talk and everyone puts up their hand, yeah, Colman, I definitely want to be happier. Definitely want to be happier. And yeah, water kefir would most certainly be one of those simple drinks. And can you tell people exactly, I suppose, just break it down. What is water kefir? Like, what is it and how do you make it? And firstly, make it so goddamn tasty.
So water kefir is a culture. So I suppose it looks like little crystals, because I feel like I'm quite a visual person, so I almost need to imagine what something looks like to know what it is. So for lack of a better word, they look like little crystals. And those little crystals are a symbiosis of bacteria and yeast. So we ferment those in a water for 48 hours. In that initial fermentation, there is sugar used for the fermentation in order to feed the cultures. So that way the cultures continue to grow, and then continue to live essentially and feed the water. And so then from there we flavor it and we use only raw ingredients in our flavor. So like what you were saying, there's no, I suppose, sweeteners used, there's no flavorings used. It's basically as raw as it comes. And like our two core flavors are ginger and turmeric and mixed berry. And again, the raw flavors are used for the second ferment, which varies between kind of 24 hours to 48 hours. So it's really, really natural in how it's made. And all the ingredients we use are organic as well. So I know you speak a lot about organic foods, and I think that's something I'm quite passionate about because to me, there's no point in producing something that's just so beneficial as water kefir if I'm not going to be using organic ingredients, because then you're not going to get the nutritional value. And then also kind of back to that bacterial level. So many, I suppose, processed veggies or like different things like that go under so much with sprays and fertilizers and different things that often there's very little nutritional value left in the fruit or veg. So with organic food, at least there's a level that we know has to be sustained in order to produce that veg. So like with the ginger and turmeric, they're all organic. The berries are organic. The sugar that we use to feed the culture is organic. And then also I'm making it on our family farm. So we have our own well. So I'm also using well water, which is really cool.
That's amazing. Oh my God, I'm so glad you mentioned it as well. I didn't know that you were doing your own well water.
Yeah. So it's really, I suppose, like kind of what you always emphasize, which is the one ingredient foods. If you look at the back of the label, the only thing that you might not understand is what is a kefir culture. But apart from that, you're going to be able to understand everything in the back of the label. And the kefir culture, why I suppose they're beneficiary is because of the live bacterial element to it. So a lot of us aren't consuming enough good live bacterias. Again, linking back to that whole food system where our food actually is over sanitized. And then we live in a very sanitized world as well, especially with the rising populations with cities, and everything being on public transport and just living in very sterile environments. So working in offices and not really getting any actual nature. And then even there's just like so many trends which are going to be detrimental, with even like people are now having or hyperallergenic dogs. So even things like that, where people are now not exposed to natural bacteria like dog hair, or being on a farm and getting mud in your mouth or something, or different really simple things that like our parents' generation would have been exposed to, we are now like less exposed. And most of us, I think it's something like, it's a crazy statistic, like 80% of our gut microbiome has been depleted, the good bacteria in our gut microbiome, just because of this sanitization of everything in our worlds.
Yeah, between sanitization and most certainly the use of harsh chemicals on so many different products that people are consuming on a regular basis. But I want to even get back to more positive things. Where did the likes of water kefir, like I suppose, originate from? With sauerkraut, typically, I think it's a German
Yeah.
tradition. You have the likes of, I think miso is Japanese, and I think also the likes of other different fermented foods come from further afield. But yeah, where does water kefir come from, and how, I suppose, did it come to Ireland?
So apparently, it was found on a cactus in Mexico. Yeah, so it's really yeah, so there's kind of a crazy story about like 4,000 years ago they just first discovered kefir culture, and yeah, apparently they discovered it on a cactus in Mexico. And I suppose like all these things, one person probably took it and then probably gave it to someone else, and then as well, by nature of the product, if you are feeding it, it's going to keep evolving, keep growing. So that's the origins of kefir. And I suppose something actually I should mention is what I make is water kefir. So it's actually a different culture to the milk kefir that some people might be familiar with, because we're seeing a lot of dairy kefir on our shelves, like in the yogurt form and the milk form. So the water kefir is actually a different strain. So if you had a water kefir culture, you can't make the dairy version, or if you had a dairy kefir culture, you can't make water kefir culture. So they're actually different strains of the bacteria. So it's got huge origins. And I suppose like a lot of fermented foods and drinks in, I suppose, Eastern Europe, it's really well known. So I often find like when I'm at stalls, like, so I've got, I'm at food festivals, I'll meet people from Poland, Lithuania, different countries like that. And they're all like, oh, my mom makes this every day. Like, it's just so normal. Like, it's part of their diet. Likewise, the same with like sauerkrauts and even the breads, like rye breads. So I suppose it's quite new to our world, the Western world. So over in Ireland, it's still very unknown. I suppose kombucha has almost paved the way for fermented drinks. So a lot of people would know kombuchas, which is a fermented tea. But water kefir is slightly less known. So it's kind of only really growing in Ireland and even in the UK and even in certain parts of Europe. People are only really learning about it. And I suppose what's quite good is like if anybody has restrictive diets, it's dairy free. It's vegan, it's vegetarian, it's actually allergen free. So if you have any dietary allergens, you can consume water, bkultured specifically, water kefir. And yeah, and it's low in sugar as well. So it's diabetic friendly. So really there's no excuse not to drink it.
Yeah, too right.
Yeah,
And as well as
yeah.
that, fermented foods are one of those things that are natural antihistamines. So it's something that we gained advantage of consuming at this moment in time, going into the likes of summer months, that typically people like I used to previously was I used to be rubbing my nose rather than Rudolph throughout literally the silage cutting season, or I was out. I always spent a high percentage of my life outside. I used to have autoimmune diseases again, such as eczema, my rashes between back of my legs, and most certainly the joints of my arms, all totally eradicated from eating more, I suppose, clean ingredient foods and fermented, like such examples of water kefir. What
Yeah.
would be I'm going to say the amount that you would recommend to consume? So the total bottle would be how many mils? 93.
So Our current, so our current bottle size is 330 mils, and the recommended really would be about 200 mils minimum a day. So there's no real maximum, but minimum 200 mils. And the reason being is like what I mentioned, it's a live culture. So if you're consuming it today, the bacterial strains in that are going to differ to what it will be in, say, 2 weeks or a month's time. And that's actually why it's beneficial, because you're constantly introducing new strains and new levels of bacteria into your diet, and specifically helping to nurture that gut microbiome. So that's why live foods and live drinks are really important for gut health, because they have that live factor. And so I suppose, like, people would be quite familiar with taking a probiotic perhaps after having a round of antibiotics, but a probiotic obviously is just one single strain. It's not evolving, it's not changing. So you wouldn't stay on a probiotic your whole life. You'd go on it for a course and then you'd come off it. But something like water kefir is something that you can and hopefully should introduce into your regular diet. So something that you'd consume on a daily basis, so that you're constantly introducing those new levels and new strains into your gut. And that's what's going to build up that gut microbiome, because I suppose what you've kind of tapped into, but like our gut microbiome supports so much. It supports our immune defense. And as well as that, like what you mentioned is the gut brain axis. So obviously 90% of serotonin, which is our happy hormone, is produced in our gut. So there's numerous studies, which I can send on and any of your listeners can check out, that there is intrinsic links, that if your gut microbiome isn't, I suppose, active enough, it's going to have detrimental impacts on your mental health. So that's one side of it. And then there's also the immune side of it, which is really important. And then again, there's also the side to it where if you genuinely have gut issues like IBS, you can get immediate relief from something like water kefir.
Yeah, very good. And I suppose what would be the benefit specifically to any individuals or clients that you currently have buying your product that they are seeing themselves, that you would, I suppose, get reports back from? I suppose there's numerous different people that just drink and go, oh my God, this is lovely. And they might know the benefits. What are specific in a couple of different points that people say, yeah, oh, I'm having these type of benefits as a result of?
Yeah, I know a few of my clients had issues with reflux just based on something that was going on internally. And they would drink that as a relief. So I suppose it's like instead of taking Rene or something like that, people are taking, I probably shouldn't mention names, but instead of taking something that would help with reflux, people are taking, say, a drink of the water kefir, especially the ginger and turmeric is really good because that also works as an anti-inflammatory. And then also with the IBS symptoms, I actually had one customer who said she used to wake up in the mornings and just be in severe discomfort from the minute she woke up in the mornings. And she'd just sit down and have a glass of the kefir and immediately just felt 10 times better. So she just was like, I can't live without this at the moment. Which is incredible that there is actually, I suppose, those direct impacts. And then I suppose from like the other side of it is just that continued support of your immune system. And like I think a lot of us learned from COVID that how we consume or what we consume has direct impacts on our health, like specifically our immune health. And so people are now realizing that there's functional foods. So there's foods and drinks that you can consume that will positively impact your health. And water kefir is one of those. So I also have a lot of customers coming to me for those reasons, because they want to be proactive with their health rather than reactive. So again, it's just adding it into that daily consumption. So for me, like I drink it all day long. I love it after sport because there's actually natural electrolytes in it. And so it's really good. So to like replenish after, say, activity. Equally in the mornings, if anybody does have kind of dietary or IBS or anything like gut concerns, it's quite good. But then because I suppose unlike kombucha, it's water rather than a fermented tea, it's caffeine free. So if you're like me and you're trying to avoid caffeine after a certain time of day,
It's
after a certain,
amazing. That's amazing. Oh my God,
yeah,
that's just brilliant.
yeah.
I love that. And literally now that, like, I just think of making this, I suppose, a routine thing in people's, I suppose, diets, lifestyles. And as a result of that, we're coming into barbecue season. And as I would love more people to literally bring healthy things. Instead of bringing the box of beer, bring the box of most certainly water, Kefir. And it's
Yeah.
about that Irish thing of having something in your hand. And you're going, yeah, you drinking? Sure am. Sure, I mean, whether it be that
Yeah.
beneficial water, that's a winner. And it's that, I suppose, idea of being inclusive. You most certainly are drinking, but you're getting a massive benefit and becoming happier and healthier. And your immune system, again, remember the fact that 70% of that is located in your gut. You're winning on all spectrums of your health.
Yeah, exactly. And like what you're saying there about, I suppose we do have a drinking culture in Ireland, and obviously, you know, it's great. We have a good time. But yeah, I suppose more of us are, I suppose we're more of us are trying to get more out of life. You know, that's probably why people are coming to you. Like we want to make the most of our lives. And we don't necessarily want to spend a whole day with a hangover. And so it's really nice that you can actually take a drink with you, like you say, and consume it and be part of that culture of being out. And I suppose that leads into something else that I'm trying to create with bkultured is the community side of it. So it's one of, I suppose, the core pillars of what we're hoping to achieve with bkultured. And this summer we're doing a series of music gigs down at my trailer, Niamh's Larder. And the whole idea behind that is that we are there to A, enjoy music, B, enjoy friends, but also do it in a way where alcohol isn't diffusing or isn't the main reason that we're there. And bkultured water Kefir is going to be sponsoring the event. So everybody that's attending will get to taste some bkultured when they arrive. And it's that whole idea that we're still able to socialize and have the crack and listen to great music. And it's also located on a cliff edge at the Atlantic Ocean. So the backdrop is the Atlantic. So you've got the sea as your backdrop, and the stage is just right there. So, and it's in a field. So it's again kind of going back to the roots of the product. It's completely natural and lived experience. So it's connecting to bringing that awareness back to our land, bringing our awareness back to the spaces that we're in and the spaces that we get to enjoy. And then also bringing it into connection through friends, connection through music. And then we're also doing some yoga events as well, getting that connection to body and mind as well.
Amazing. Niamh, I suppose, were you always someone that was extremely healthy? Like I know you've mentioned, or maybe previous to press and record, you did a CSIM this morning. Are there any benefits that you've seen yourself from, I suppose, living a healthier lifestyle and consuming the likes of your product that you've come up with as of now?
I suppose like everyone, I definitely am not like 100% healthy 100% of the time, but I think having grown up in the countryside, I was always active. So I did sailing and horse riding, and I was quite an outdoorsy person growing up. And then growing up on a farm, and both of my parents coming from farming communities, or farming families, I suppose, were always served home cooked meals. So we were never really a processed food family. And I think that's probably why I have a bit more awareness around maybe actually cooking from scratch, or being more aware of, if I buy a product, I always look at the label at the back to see what ingredients are in it. Because I know how many preservatives and how many stabilizers and how many different ingredients are used in order to make products taste good. And I suppose I'm always very interested and keen to make sure that what I'm inputting is going to be better for me, not worse. And like, I suppose I do try to stay as active as possible. And like for me, bkultured is a great way of just making something a really easy addition to your diet. So I think that's something I always try to emphasize. Like I cook on yoga retreats as well. And something I always try to emphasize is, look, we're never going to be 100% perfect, but can we make like little changes? So maybe it's just having that 200 mils of water Kefir in the morning. And that's one amazing thing that you did today. And then maybe tomorrow it's something else that you do, something else that Colman has advised that you do. um, that's the way I look at it. Like I'm never going to be perfect, but it's just trying to find ways of being better, purchasing smarter, and also just being very aware of where our food's coming from and how it's made.
Yeah, no, and Niamh, fair play. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's about that being, I suppose, just 1% better. Adding in, it's about actually being healthier. You actually add in things as opposed to doing less. Right? Adding in the water Kefir, doing a bit of yoga, doing a bit of movement. Mornings are made for movement. we've done it, and literally we're passing on our, suppose, positive vibes through the airways. That most certainly people go, Jesus, yeah, I'm going to get on that. I'm all over it. And that's what the whole idea and emphasis of this podcast is. Where's, I suppose, Niamh, I suppose, conscious of your own time, where's the best place for people to either contact you directly, either get their hands on the product, name the website, and or where you're located exactly, so I suppose people can reach out to you?
So the website is bkultured.com. I'm going to spell bkultured because it's slightly different. So it's bkultured, bkultured.com. The reason we've spelled cultured with a K is to link back into the Kefir, which is spelled with a K. And you can find us on Instagram, Facebook. Bkultured is the handle. I'm also on LinkedIn, Niamh Hegerty or bkultured. And then if you're looking to buy it, we have our stockists listed on our website. They're also listed on my social media accounts. And so you can go in and taste it wherever you are around Cork, and we're growing. So keep an eye on the stockist page because we will be spreading our wings and getting out of the lovely county of Cork. And you can also buy it online. So it's just a minimum order of 6 bottles for delivery. But you can mix it up. You can get a few different flavors, or you can just get one of each, or whatever it is you want. So that's online. And then if you want to come check out the music gigs, they are at my food trailer, which is called Niamh's Larder, and that's on Ballybrannigan Beach in East Cork.
Lovely. All right, Niamh, that was really amazing, and most certainly people will gain massive advantage from listening to this podcast. And I always end these shows by saying, stay tuned, stay classy, and keep it organic.